Hello, everyone. This is Gene, and I'm back with part 2 of the Samara character study. So, this video is going to be about the duality of the self, the hero and the shadow. So, let's get right into it. So, in Mass Effect 2, Samara eventually reveals her loyalty mission. Each character in the game has a loyalty mission. Her loyalty mission lies in finally capturing and murdering the criminal that she has been in hot pursuit of for centuries. She admits sorrowfully that this criminal is her own daughter, Morinth. Samara explains that Morinth is what in her culture, the Asari culture, is known as an Ardat Yakshi, which is an Asari that suffers from a genetic disorder that causes her to kill her mates when they mate, instead of the gentle melding of nervous systems and making sweet, sweet love. Instead, the Ardat Yakshi overpowers her lover's nervous system, burning it out and causing a hemorrhage in the brain, which ultimately kills her lover. On top of this, every time that an Ardat Yakshi does this, kills their mates via sex, they become stronger, smarter, and faster. Sounds a lot like the quickening to me from Highlander. For those who may not be familiar with Highlander, in Highlander you basically have a bunch of swordsmen and swordswomen who are supposedly immortal, who fight for the right to become human, and they do this through sword battles. Two people walk in, one person leaves. The loser gets beheaded, and the winner gets struck by lightning. As is explained here, the quickening is the receiving of all the power and knowledge of another immortal, that another immortal, I should say, has obtained throughout his or her life. So, obviously, Mornith's genetic condition and the quickening sound very similar. In case all the red didn't tip you off in her design, Samara firmly fits into the archetype of the hero. As is explained here, the hero is characterized by, amongst other things, actions that are done in service of others who are in need, whether it is for an individual, a group, or a community. Actions that are performed voluntarily. The individual recognizes the potential risk or sacrifice they are making in taking these actions. The heroic individual willingly accepts the anticipated sacrifice they are making, and they engage in these actions without any expectation of reward or external gain. Samara fits all of these characteristics. In fact, her pseudo Bushido code of the Justicar code demands that she sacrifice herself for others and to protect people from those who would harm them. And as dialogue in the game makes clear, she accepts the weight of that responsibility willingly and voluntarily. And in fact, to address the last point here, without expectation of reward, money is never mentioned in Samara's work. She never talks about having received compensation. In fact, according to supplemental material, when an Asari decides to become a Justicar, they have to give up all of their worldly possessions, save for the bare minimum that would allow them to do their job of hunting down criminals and protecting and rescuing the innocent. So they essentially have to take and make a vow of poverty. So Samara clearly fits into the characteristics of the hero archetype. Her daughter Morinth, on the other hand, is firmly in the shadow category. Now I'm going to be jumping around in this paragraph a bit, but basically, the shadow is an archetype that consists of the sex and life instincts, and that it is composed of repressed ideas, weaknesses, desires, instincts, and shortcomings. It is the archetype that contains all the things that are unacceptable not only to society, but also to one's personal morals and values. It includes things such as envy, greed, prejudice, hate, and aggression. This archetype is often described as the darker side of the psyche, representing wildness, chaos, and the unknown. It says here that, although it's talking about dreams, it says that the shadow can appear in dreams or visions and can take a variety of forms, including other dark, wild, or exotic figures. I'd say that the seductive sexual serial killer pretty much falls into this category. Now, given that mother and daughter, or rather, I should say that given that Morinth is Samara's shadow, mother and daughter have a lot in common. As seen here, they are equal in strength. And in fact, Shepard's loyalty mission ends in a choice. Shepard must decide whether to help Samara or to help Morinth. If Shepard makes the dumb choice and helps Morinth, Morinth tells Shepard, which could be of either gender, but in most of these clips it's going to be male because that's just what I found. Morinth says that she can be a dead ringer for her belated mother. Now, this is Morinth dressed up as Samara. This is Samara. And this is Morinth dressed up as Samara again. As we can see here, she is her mother's twin. On top of that, both women are noted and famed hunters in story. And they've been at their craft for centuries. They also impress with sophistication and sex appeal. In fact, there is a scene during the early part of the loyalty mission where Samara tries to impress upon Shepard the importance of taking Morinth seriously, because Morinth is a very seductive and alluring individual. And Samara takes great pains to explain to Shepard, and in great detail to explain to Shepard, and by extension to the player, that Morinth is not someone to be taken lightly and is very, very, very seductive. And if you listen to the dialogue, it will make you wonder if Samara is talking about Morinth or if she's talking about herself. But for all the similarities that mother and daughter share in appearance, power, and seductive appeal, they couldn't be more different when it comes to personality, purpose, and motivation. As Samara explains here, even when she was a mercenary, therefore in her wild and crazy years and long before she became a Justicar, she fought tyrants and pirates, and although it's not mentioned here, but it's mentioned in other dialogue in the game, she also fought slavers. Whereas her daughter Morinth preys on those who are innocent, preys on those who are isolated from their peers and therefore are vulnerable. When Shepard, or if Shepard decides to side with Morinth, Shepard will note that Morinth doesn't seem to be bothered by the death of her own mother. Morinth responds by saying that Samara was as powerful as she was hateful, and that her mother has been long dead to her. In contrast, when Samara kills Morinth, she does so in remorse. Her voice is filled with remorse, and she says nothing but positive things about her daughter, even in this very tragic moment, saying that she has just killed the bravest and smartest of her daughters, and even admitting to being proud of her because of the fact that her daughter, for all of her flaws, did not accept the hand that fate dealt her. Because what the Asari typically do with someone who is an Ardak Yakshi is that they basically lock them away in a monastery, which is supposedly for their own good. In fact, Samara's other two daughters, who are also Ardak Yakshi, live in a monastery, and they are briefly featured in Mass Effect 3. But Morinth was the one who was most like her mother, and like her mother, decided to not be bound by the hand that fate dealt her, even though that rebelliousness ultimately ended up being her demise. Morinth is a predator who doesn't care about those she hurts. Samara, on the other hand, is a hero who remembers each person that she has killed and will willingly, without thought, risk her own life to save others. In fact, there is a scene in Mass Effect. It's the Citadel DLC, so it's officially part of Mass Effect 3. But in the Citadel DLC, there is a sequence where Shepard will actually take out and talk about a magazine called Justicar Heroes, which has done at least 2 stories on Samara. Samara, in classic hero fashion, will blush and say that the stories about her are exaggerated. But if there's one thing Gargoyle has ever taught me, it's that women who wear red and downplay their heroic exploits are always, always good people. But moving on, for all of their differences, Morinth is Samara. Morinth is Samara when she was younger, when she was the wild child. But she's a Samara that has no direction, no purpose outside of herself. She's a Samara that has no morals, that has no sense of right and wrong. She's a Samara that is completely unchained, unrestrained, untamed. She's a Samara without her honor code, without that ironclad honor code. Samara herself admits that her honor code is very out of place in the modern world of the Mass Effect series, where everything exists in shades of gray while the code sees things in black and white. And she admits that it compels her to harsh action. But, as she says here, she answers to a code that is clearly defined. In fact, it is stated in game that the code has 5,000 sutras, that she has memorized each one of them. And as she says here, if her actions are just, or rather, if her actions are true to the code, she is just, and if they are not, she is unjust. It gives her purpose, as is stated here, because the code's purpose isn't to bring about spiritual enlightenment, but rather to punish the wicked and to protect the innocent. So long as Samara is fighting injustices and rescuing people and protecting the innocent from harm, then she is doing good in the world. However, Morinth, her shadow, is ultimately a selfish individual who is grossly immature and ultimately is a slave to the more primitive side of her personality. She is a slave to her dark desires and violent impulses. In fact, the game makes note of the fact that her mating with others and becoming stronger and stronger over the centuries has actually driven her insane. But she also is unwilling to stop, hence why Samara has been chasing her and trying to put her down for so long. So basically, she is Samara without her honor code, a Samara that has no purpose outside of herself, that has no direction except to simply follow her own desires. A Samara that has no honor code is simply a very dangerous woman who kills without mercy, and as the game demonstrates, needs to be put down for the good of the galaxy. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you thought about it, and I will be back soon with part 3, which is the duality of, I believe, sexuality. The vamp versus the femme fatale. So, I'll be back soon with the third part. I will see you all next time. I hope you enjoyed this. Have a good night or day. Bye.